The following is an encore presentation of stories from the Dooralong Transformation Centre. We're talking to Damien this morning. As I said just before the 10 o'clock news, Damien isn't at the Dooralong Transformation Centre. You haven't been there for how long, Damien?
Since November.
So you were there for how long altogether?
I was there for around the 10-month mark, and then I went into aftercare for 2.5, 3 months, maybe.
And now you're living, whereabouts are you? You on the coast?
Newcastle, New Lambton Heights, beautiful area.
Yeah. Okay, well, what we really want to do this morning is concentrate on, that huge step of leaving Dooralong and the way in which God has clearly, as listeners will hear, had his hand upon your shoulder and has got you firmly in his grip, which is a great place to be. But look, could you just remind listeners of your life before Dooralong and briefly tell us, what your old life was?
Well, I got diagnosed. It started when I got diagnosed with ADD when I was about 8 or 9, and I went on amphetamines, and that's where I lost my identity really. I went through, smoking, started drugs, teenager, drinking heavily, losing jobs, lost my license.
Just out of control.
Yeah, out of control. And then I tried to re-establish myself when I moved from Muswellbrook to Newcastle. So I started studying and went to TAFE, and I completed my pre-apprenticeship course for a chef.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working in Newcastle for about 5 years. And I had a relationship breakdown then, and that caused me to kind of run, thinking that I could restart or run away from my problems. And I moved to Port Macquarie, and that's where I got heavily into after I became a Jehovah's Witness. I stopped everything, stopped smoking, drinking, everything when I became a Jehovah's Witness and got baptised. Then my marriage broke down, and my ex-wife took my daughter out of town and is hiding her. Well, not telling.
You don't have access.
I don't have access, or don't know where they are. That's when everything. That's when I hit the harder drugs, the methamphetamine, and so it
was that issue with your wife, your ex-wife, taking your daughter and just leaving. That really precipitated the very downward spiral into more drugs, harder drugs.
Because the congregation I was in, once you're disfellowshipped, you're under the influence of Satan, and I was trying not to think, is that what they're saying to my daughter? Is that what they're is that the way they think? And they kind of, I don't know, it's like they feel that they're protecting my daughter because I did want her to choose her spirituality. Like, I didn't want her to be at such a young age not having a choice.
So how long and where did Jehovah's Witnesses come into your life, and how long were you part of that sort of? My ex-wife,
she was born and raised in the Jehovah's Witnesses, and we were seeing each other, and so she had my daughter out of wedlock, and so it was disfellowship for her if things didn't change. So I started studying and thinking that was the honourable thing to do, and she doesn't lose her family and friends, and started studying, and got baptised, and so it's.
And then you say you, what was the word you used? Disfellowshipped? Or?
Yeah.
What precipitated that? Why did they throw you out? Or what was the rift between you and that faith?
Well, we'd had an argument. I'd been trying to get counselling from the elders in the congregation for a while, but things weren't being spoken until they weren't there. And we'd had an argument, and I'd started smoking again, and that was enough to.
So instead of sort of embracing you and saying, "Look, Damien, you've got really, really big problems," you turn to some drugs again. Look, what can we do to help? They actually just push you away.
Yeah, that's how it felt. And inside, I felt that the God I know now, He will travel to the ends for that one sheep, and He will leave the 99 to do that. And I didn't feel like that sheep.
No. So there was that rift there, and then you turned to hard drugs and alcohol, and eventually found yourself at Dooralong.
Yep.
And you were there for 10 months?
Yep, about 10 months.
And then, I don't think we've talked to anybody actually who's sort of graduated and moved on with their life, but I imagine leaving Dooralong after 10 months is a really scary thing. I mean, you're clean whilst you're in Dooralong, but you're in that safe bubble. Is that right? Is it a very worrying time for you? Or was it for you?
What, when you're at Dooralong?
No, when you're leaving.
Yeah, well, if you follow the program and you do the suggested things, even though if you think they're not right, and you do them, you find that you start to prepare yourself and to transition back into society and out of the cotton wool where everything comes back at you.
Is this what they call the re-entry phase?
So if you take it seriously, and you truly want recovery, and you don't want to go down the same roads in your past, then you listen and you take on board what the program has, what the staff members, the people there that are caring for you, what they say, and you give it a go. And I found that would work. That worked, and it worked really well for me. So
that's good.
Yeah, it was very scary, and I had those vulnerabilities, and I was worried. What's going to happen here? What's going to happen there? What's going to happen there? And God just kept coming to me and saying, "Just rest.
It's going to be okay.
It's okay. Just stay focused on me, and everything else is perfect."
Yeah. Well, I'll have a break for some music shortly, but just before that, was it at Dooralong that you went in as a you went in as an ex-Jehovah Witness? Would you say before you went to Dooralong that you had met Christ?
No.
And was it at Dooralong that you were introduced to Christ?
Yes. To me, it felt like I'd never really knew who God was, and His love. How powerful His love was, and I never was introduced to the Holy Spirit, and had that counsellor to walk with me and Christ in me.
It sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you had a lot of knowledge from studying the Bible as a Jehovah's Witness, a lot of head knowledge and intellectual knowledge, but there wasn't a real relationship there.
No, that's it. That's how I felt. I felt that there was walls, and I had a lot of fear from the outside world. I don't know how to say it, but I had built up a lot of fear because I wasn't allowed to look at this on the internet. I wasn't allowed to absorb, things that God has created, things that do exist. And
So you were discouraged from reading Christian books or Christian devotionals. The Jehovah's Witnesses, they wanted to control what you read and what you saw.
It was being controlled by the governing body, and the governing body would, what they would call, give us the food at the right time. And there's a lot of truth in their food. There's a lot of truth in their food, but there's a lot of there's a lot of truth outside as well, that God, he's in us and he's all around us, and he doesn't want us just to be putting up boundaries and walls like that, because that's fear and doubt in him, that he can protect you and he can show you his truth and wisdom.
He's too big and too powerful to be contained within a little box.
Yeah, and that's fear, and fear comes from the enemy.
We're talking to Damien this morning. He's been telling us of his background and the issues in life that led him to Dooralong Transformation Centre, from which he graduated last November. That's right, isn't it? We talked about that scary transition from the very safe world of Dooralong into the real world, and Damien was explaining how that's sort of taken care of by the salvos, and it's a transition, isn't it? That's the way of putting it. Yeah. So you left last November. What's been happening for you since last November?
Oh, okay. Where to start? Where after I left Dooralong, I went into their aftercare and started my transition, and I've had blessing after blessing. I'm praying for a car. 2 days later, my mate rings me, and do you want a car?
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, and I didn't pay anything for it, and that so that was a good blessing, because I was asking for the car because I had things that I was connected with people in the church, and things like the prayer room and the healing rooms and stuff like that. So I needed to get around and keep doing what I was doing that has been working for me. That, and once I realised that I was praying, I need somewhere to live.
Yeah.
And I had a lovely lady approached me at church, and she said she had a room, and I'm like, nice. That was another blessing, and the people I live with, they're awesome. I'm living with share accommodation.
Yeah.
And I just love the diversity. It's a really good place to be, and the place he's placed me in is a safe environment for me.
He's amazing, really, isn't he? He takes care of all our practical needs as well as our spiritual needs. I mean, you need a car, you get a car 2 days later. You need somewhere to live, a lady from church says, I've got a place for you. It's just, people wouldn't believe you, would they?
No, and, be careful what you pray for. So, and once you start to receive his blessings, open yourself up to that.
Yeah.
And, you're wanting it for no reason other than to stay close to him. That's right.
The motive's got to be right.
Yep, and things start occurring, and they just line up perfectly, and I can still go home, sit in my room, and I'll just start crying with humility and thanking him for all the things he's done.
It sounds like since you left Dooralong, your church has come to mean, it's a really important part of your life, isn't it?
Yes.
That particular church.
Yeah. I don't judge between churches, and I do a few different things outside the church as well, with other church members. But the love at North Lakes is tremendous.
Yeah.
The way they embrace, we embrace each other, and it's quite an eye-opening, and it gives us a taste of Christ's love and just how powerful it is, and it changes everybody's life.
And you haven't completely sort of left Dooralong as such, because you're now going back there to help the people who are on the programme.
Yeah, so I go back on Thursdays and I take a group, some participants to Grow Group, and it is what it is. I love just.
What's a Grow Group? Sounds like a gardening club, but I know it's not.
it's a group based on mental health and addiction, so dual addiction, and it's run in Baddo Bay, and they're all over Australia. And I've made some really good friends there in the group as well, and that's a part of my journey as well. And God's placed me there in amongst these people.
So it's a support group as much as anything else.
It is. It's a support group, and we help each other just come to an understanding of emotions and mental health, and it's hard to explain, but it is support. Yeah.
So do you feel a need to give something back to Dooralong? Is this your way of saying thanks, you've changed my life?
Well, that's a hard question, because I don't feel a need. It's
more something you want to do than you feel
God's
obliged.
revealing more and more in my heart my vulnerabilities and my love and my compassion for people, and it's a want. It's not a need. I'm not under a hierarchy that says, okay, now I've given you this, you go and do this.
Payback time.
No, that's not how his love works. It motivates you to go, I just want to jump in as deep as I can and do whatever I can and stay involved and around, around God's children, and that's all of us.
And when you go back to Dooralong and meet the new people there and the fresh intake, you must, in some of those faces and in some of those lives, you must see a reflection of yourself 12 months ago.
Yeah. Like I was saying earlier, I try and look back and see a transition that's taken place, but there's not one single point. But there is a total rebirth, a total reset, like a factory default back into God, into who you're intended to be. And it's hard to find where that button was pressed, because it's an ongoing process as well at the same time. So it's really weird, but you do. It reminds you, where you've been.
And if there are other lives that you can influence in a positive way, then that gives you joy. It gives God joy.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to do, is learn, how I can be of help or use to other people that have been through what I've been through.
We're talking to Damien. He mentioned that great organisation called GROW that helps people with mental health issues or addictions, depression, stress, anxiety. If you want to grab a pen and a paper, later on I'll be giving you their number where you can find out a local group, or where a local group meets. There are quite a number of groups here on the Central Coast. So grab that pen, grab that piece of paper. I'll let you have those details later. Let's get back to Damien. What's going to happen next for you, Damien? Just to remind listeners, you've left Dooralong, left them in November. You're now living in Newcastle. Church is really, really important to you. Not as important as God, but really, really important to you. Employment-wise, you're going to need to make your way in the world. You're a young guy. You can't sit back and do nothing. What's happening on that front?
Well, like I said, at the moment, I'm just in between working out what I should do, whether I should go into full-time study in mid-year this year, or wait till next year and find some casual work or something. I don't want to go back into the industry of being a chef. It's stressful, and I don't want anything that'll lead into any sort of implications. So I still have to be careful and be patient. I don't like being on Centrelink or I don't like that area of things, but I keep feeling in my heart that God's saying, just be patient. Make sure you're honest to your doctors, honest to the job networks and all these places, and just just keep the transition of growth that's happening, and things will work
He hasn't
out.
brought you this far on the journey to turn his back and walk away.
No, yeah, and I don't want to speed things up thinking I know and do things on my own will, considering, I know his blessings and his promises come, and anything that I do on my own is just going to hinder.
Yeah. And you're studying that
process.
sort of set for in community services. That's quite a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's a big jump, and I haven't studied for a long time, and to get, once I start, I'm going right through to the diploma, and so that's a big decision. So I'm leaving that up to him, and I'm waiting on some answers.
Yeah. When we try to take back the reins of our life and control, that's sometimes when we can stuff it up, can't we?
That's what I've always done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
As soon as we think, I've got this sorted now, God, thanks, it was great, you helped me through that problem, but I'm back on track now. Not a good move.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you hadn't seen your daughter for a long while. Does that remain true?
Yes, and it's been around 3 years, and yeah, it's painful. It's probably the number one thing that I need to go into some deep meditational prayer with at times, and just allow God to put the peace and the love in my heart, and know that I will see her again.
Sometimes when we don't get an answer, an immediate answer to prayer, we think God's not doing anything, but we just don't know what he's doing in other lives and in other situations, that he's working
He is
on the issue, but we just can't see what he's doing.
Yeah, and that's the thing, if I don't believe that, then what is he going to do? But I do believe he's working, and I when he tells me, patience, Damien, you'll have your daughter back, and you'll be the father that I intend you to be. You'll love her as I love you, and I feel like that's a much more beneficial process.
It's sort of, you can hear God saying, Damien, do you trust me? Do you trust me?
Yeah, and I'm like, yes, I do, but I want to cuddle my daughter. I want to hold my daughter right now,
Yeah, of course you do, and he must know. He must know how painful that is, as we all must know how painful that is. But it does sound as if God has turned your life around. 2 years ago, where were you?
Absolutely. I had no hope. I never really had dreamt that my life, I would feel real joy after, suffering so many different mental health issues like depression, anxiety. I really didn't see that anything changing, and this was who I was going to be for the rest of my life. I had that placed in my mind, and now it's real joy. I wake up, I feel joy, I feel love, I experience God's love like every day. He puts something new in my heart. He shows me something new in someone else. He opens my eyes to looking at his children, all of us, in a different way, and it's just amazing. It's amazing.
So what would you say to those people who say, no such thing as miracles, God doesn't do miracles?
He does do miracles.
You're living proof.
And I feel I'm eternally grateful for the miracles that he's done for me. And he starts in your heart.
Hey Damien, it's been a privilege really to sit here and listen to you this morning. It would be good perhaps if we could keep in touch, because we talked to you when you were at Dooralong. We've talked to you now sort of 6 months out of Dooralong. Perhaps in another 6 months' time you could get in touch with us and bring us up to date on your journey from here to there.
Yeah, thank you. That would be lovely. Yeah, I'd like that.
Look, we mentioned earlier that organisation Grow. If you're interested in just finding out a little bit about that organisation, go to grow.org.au, grow.org.au. And if you want to find out whether there are any local branches or any local support groups that you can join, it's 9633 1800. 9633 1800, but that phone number is on the website. So grow.org.au. Terrific organisation. Damien can confirm that, can't you?
I can. Absolutely awesome.
You might even meet Damien if you go to the Bateau Bay one. Okay, thanks so much for coming in, Damien. You've been listening to an encore presentation of the Dooralong stories, which can be heard live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. and repeated 8 p.m. Sunday and 1 a.m. Wednesday, right here on 94.9 rema.cc.